Planar magnetic headphones have always run on one rule: more current, more power, more sound. The Meze ARTA just broke that rule completely, and somehow it sounds even bigger because of it. This is their new $6,000 flagship, built with Rinaro isodynamics, the same team behind the Empyrean 2 and the Elite. But this time, they didn't just refine the formula, they flipped it. Today, we're finding out what happens when you throw out the entire planar playbook, and whether the ARTA actually earns its place as a true endgame headphone. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Drew Baird with Moon Audio.
We're talking about the brand new Meze ARTA planar magnetic headphones. Handcrafted in Romania, this is a $6,000 reference grade open back headphone designed for serious audiophiles ready for the endgame experience.
This headphone is a major departure from the standard planar designs. It is built around a world-first, high-impedance planar magnetic driver developed in partnership with Rinaro Isodynamics. We're taking you beyond the spec sheet, looking at the engineering under the grills, comparing it to past flagships, and helping you decide if this is the final piece your dream system is missing.
Exciting! But before we continue, I've got something to tell you. Every listener's path to great sound is a little bit different, and finding your audio nirvana is really about knowing which milestones matter most to you right now. We put together a short quiz to help you map out your specific audio journey. It'll generate a personalized listening profile, provide you with several expert guides tailored to your current stage, and you can also enter our monthly Dragon Cable giveaway once you finish. So if you're ready to get some clarity, click the first link in the description below, check it out, and now let's get right back to the video. All right, Drew, let's start with the heart of these headphones, the driver. Meze's worked with Rinaro Isodynamics before on legendary models like the Empyrean 2 and the Elite. But the ARTA introduces a brand new transducer called the MZ5. So Drew, maybe you can answer this question for me. How would you say that this driver compares to past models, and what does this high impedance design actually mean for the sound quality?
Well, it's an impressive leap forward in planar technology. While most planar magnetic drivers run in low voltage, high current mode, the MZ5 driver takes the exact opposite approach, running in high voltage, low current mode instead. Less current running through the diaphragm means you get significantly less heat and mechanical stress on the membrane. Even when you push the volume up, the ARTA fights off dynamic compression and keeps tonal harmonic distortion under an incredibly low 0.05%.
Wow.
Inside the driver, the trace itself is 2.5 times larger than the typical design, but its cross-sectional area is 2.8 times smaller. Rinaro did this to spread the electromagnetic drive force evenly across the entire membrane. It moves as one cohesive, unified whole, keeping transients exceptionally sharp and frequency response perfectly steady.
There you have it. Now, to get the absolute most out of that driver, we have to talk about power requirements. Specifically, the fact that these headphones have a massive 225 ohm impedance. Not just any piece of gear is going to be able to drive these headphones. So that brings me to my next question, Drew, one that's probably on everyone's mind. What does that spec mean for the listener's signal chain? And can someone run this directly off a portable player, or are you going to need something much stronger?
This is an endgame headphone that demands endgame high voltage amplification to perform. If you try to run this off a standard portable player or an iPhone, you aren't going to get the full sonic presentation. While a minimum of 200 milliwatts will get you sound, we highly recommend 500 milliwatts or more of output power to let the Rinaro MZ5 driver truly sing without clipping or working overtime. High voltage means these headphones are going to be stellar with a tube amplifier. Well, we have just the ticket: the Saros Audio Europa or the Dragon Inspire. Both are perfect matches for this headphone. For portable use, I will have to confirm and get feedback from Aslo and Curran, but the SP3000T and the SP4000T should also be wonderful options. In all tube mode, they will provide a warm, rich, and high voltage situation. Now, don't get me wrong, this does not mean that you can't use the headphones with a solid-state amplifier, but I have a feeling we are going to find these will excel with tube amplifiers that run higher voltage applications.
That's great to hear because I personally love that warm tube sound, so I'm definitely going to have to try these with the Inspire and the Europa. But now, if you don't want that full-size component and you want something that's a little smaller, more low profile, I actually had no problems using it with the iFi Audio iDSD Valkyrie DAC headphone amp. Since I was listening at my desk, which is already low on real estate, I knew that I needed something small that wasn't going to take up much space but still had the power that the ARTA demanded. I used the Valkyrie in its highest gain mode, was able to listen at a comfortable level, and I can honestly say that this is one of the few desktop amps that's going to be fully up to the task. Alright, so there's everything that you need to know about the tech specs, and that's out of the way. Let's get to the fun stuff. How does it sound? We've reviewed many Meze headphones over the years, and at least speaking for myself, I had pretty high expectations when I heard that a new endgame model was coming onto the scene. You guys are in luck because Drew and I are two different types of listeners, so you're getting impressions from both ends of the spectrum. I'm warm and musical. I love musicality, I love that extra warmth, so it's always my default, and most of my genres that I listen to fall into that category.
So for me, these are a play on the original Empyrean, which were warm and lush sounding. To my ears, they are a cross between the Elite and the Empyrean OG, but swinging more on the musical side. The best of both headphones are here, I feel. Plenty of detail, but just gobs of romantic musical bloom. I have a new phono set up in my office. Yes, a turntable in my office. I did the bulk of my demo with the Technics SL1200 GME with the Ortofon Bronze Cadenza cartridge with a Pass Labs XB17 phone preamp. Then this went into the Europa headphone amplifier. It was a game over scenario for me. If you love vinyl and headphones, this is a setup for you. I must have listened to the Impex Records Le Grand Jazz album, which is a compilation of the best in the jazz world. I think I listened to the album 5 times in a row. While I'm a detail and analytical listener, I gravitated more towards Kayla and really wanted to see what it would do with a really warm analog setup.
And you were pleased?
Amen.
So for me, I immediately fell in love with that natural warmth and rich nature that Drew just mentioned, especially in the mid-range and the low end. It was authentic, but also incredibly lifelike. I will say, depending on the track, the mid-range could come across a little too lush for your liking, but that's nothing that our Silver Dragon premium headphone cable can't fix, which we'll get into in a bit. So Drew, give us your take. What were the takeaways here for you?
Smooth and musical without being mushy. Meze never disappoints with the full body in the low registers. No blow to the sound, just perfect control and playback of the double bass from the record listening session I just went over. One of the few headphones I felt were able to do both detail and musicality spot on was the Focal Utopia. This has always been my benchmark, and these easily mimic that result. I don't make that sort of statement very often. These are not the Utopias. They have a different house sound, but they meet the same expectations for me.
And honestly, guys, if you know Drew, you should know that that's a huge statement because the Utopia has been on his desert island headphone list forever. So I've got to know, do you think the ARTA is going to get a place on the list next?
I'm pretty sure it'll be right next to it.
Okay. So, I've listened to a lot of detailed headphones, but the ARTA has this uncanny ability to just reproduce fine details effortlessly. I listened to a track that I've heard 100 times over many different pieces of gear, and the ARTA reproduced these ad-libs that were layered in the back that I just never noticed before. It brought me closer to the music and the artist's lens than I'd ever been. I began to truly appreciate all of the hard work that just goes into creating a track. A lot of the time, we understand what it takes, but as a consumer, we're focused on the end product. How does the song make us feel? What can we take away from this experience? So unless you're a particularly discerning person, you're probably not giving much thought to the artist's creative process. At least I wasn't. But with the ARTA, things became different. Those tiny curated elements that many artists assume go unnoticed, and they do with the wrong gear, they were clear as day and they were reproduced with musicality and a lifelike presentation. And that was the biggest takeaway for me.
I think the word you're looking for is nuances. These are what make or break an audio piece of equipment for me. I listen to the nuances. What makes the equipment stand out? They pick up on things that don't show up in the music. Plain and simple.
So we wouldn't be doing our public service as audiophiles if we didn't compare the ARTA to Meze's most popular models. I've been seeing a lot of chatter online wondering how it stacks up to the Empyrean and Elite, And here's what we've got to say. So the first generation Empyrean was warm, everybody liked it, but it did often get criticized for being slightly too muddy. Then you had the Elite, which improved on the pitfalls of the Empyrean. You got more clarity, you got more detail retrieval, kind of stood in its own category. Then Meze came out with the Empyrean 2, which expanded on both of the sounds of those two headphones and just refined everything that the Empyrean first generation did well. So you got more detail, you got better clarity, you got a great sound stage. I would say personally that I feel that the ARTA kind of sits in the middle between the first generation and second generation Empyrean, leans a little bit more toward the second generation sound while having the detail retrieval and clarity that the Elite carries.
Yeah, I think, the original Empyrean in my mind sort of has a bit of a cult following, right? When that one was discontinued, there were a lot of lovers of this headphone, right? It was a very warm headphone. And quite frankly, at the time, there weren't a lot of options in the warm category. So then, yes, the Elite comes out, and the Elite to me was just a total change. Like, I think we mentioned in that original review of the Elite in that, this wasn't okay, let's take the original OG Empyrean and sort of improve upon it. It was really a different tonality with the Elite entirely, right? It was a different headphone. It looked similar. Obviously, they changed the colors of the cups and whatnot, but it was definitely very different. And then when the Empyrean 2 came out, I was sort of hoping for, okay, let's get a play again on the OG, which, everybody loved that warmth. Was it warm? It had some musical characteristics, but it was definitely not as warm as the original. And so to me, I feel like, a lot of that warmth that all those like I said, the cult classic approach to that original OG is sort of coming back now with the ARTA. But again, now they've got the detail and resolution. It is so hard to be a musical headphone and a detailed headphone. Thus my comment back to the Utopia, which was one of the few that could do that and why I loved it so much. What I like about the ARTA over the Utopia is just a fuller body sound, right? The Utopia, I'm not going to say it's thin sounding, okay? But I'm going to use that as an exaggeration to sort of compare the two. There's so much more full body to this, and it's so much more enveloping in terms of that body that it's a very different headphone from the Utopia. Still some of the same characteristics in terms of warm musicality and detail, but a totally different sound than the Utopia. So if I own the Utopia and I wanted something at that sort of level and 180-degree flip in a lot of ways, this would be the headphone for me.
Now, when it came time to determine which Dragon cable to recommend, we both quickly agreed that the Silver Dragon premium headphone cable was just the ultimate pairing here. Because the ARTA's presentation does have that warmth, it does have that richness to it, and I said earlier that certain tracks can sound more lush depending on what you're listening to, the Silver Dragon comes through and it just tightens everything up, You're getting more top-end resolution. The details that are already there, they're even finer. Those nuances are nuanced more, if you will.
Yeah, bass control becomes tighter. But again, with all of these cables, there is no right or wrong. We all hear differently. I say this all the time. My ear canal is like a fingerprint. No two are the same, right? So there is no right or wrong to the cables. And depending on the gear you use, if you've got a very warm, lush, and liquid-sounding tube amp or a very forward-sounding solid-state amplifier, that doesn't mean the Silver Dragon's right for you. I think sort of the best of both worlds is our new Bronze Dragon headphone cable, which is sort of a cross between the black and the silver. It's got the meat and potatoes of the black, if you will, and the detail and resolution of the silver. Not as detailed as the silver, not as laid back, lush, and full-bodied as the black, sort of an in-between, if you will, the best of both worlds. Maybe check out the bronze. And hey, there's nothing wrong with the blue. The blue is a very natural, neutral cable. If you don't want to change the overall sound coloration signature of the headphones, but you want to add a little more detail, go with the Blue Dragon Premium.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about our Dragon audio cables. Each line has its own unique sound signature, and like Drew just mentioned, you get to choose what works for your listening style, your ears, your gear. So if you are interested in upgrading that cable to one of our Dragon audio cables, I encourage you to head to moon-audio.com and explore our entire collection. All right, so when it comes to design, we're just gonna keep things brief here because I feel like you've already noticed what's changed during the video. The ARTA uses a blend of precision metals, leathers, and carbon fiber for its build. The open back grills right here are particularly interesting because they stray from past designs. Rather than that spoke style pattern that we've seen in the past, Meze actually uses angled acoustic blades that help preserve the headphone's sound quality. So not only does it provide that physical protection, but it also doesn't constrain the transducer's performance.
The silver metal accents on the sides of the ear cups are bold yet intentional, with beautiful curves and cuts. Even with a robust fiberglass-infused ABS frame and a total weight of 495 grams, the headband suspension system distributes that weight perfectly. It provides a pleasantly tight clamping force that feels snug, secure, and incredibly comfortable for long-term listening.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I will always give Meze Audio 6 out of 5 stars when it comes to comfort. Their headband suspension system fits perfectly on all head shapes. Their ear pads are generously padded, which we'll actually get right into because the ARTA doesn't come with one, but 2 distinct ear pads. And all in all, it's non-fatiguing and it doesn't have a tight clamping force either. So about the ear pads, you're getting 2 here, a duo angle pad and a set of slim Alcantara pads. The duo angle pads combine perforated lambskin and Alcantara for a richer, more impactful presentation, while the slim Alcantara pads deliver a smoother, highly neutral upper frequency region. And that's actually pretty neat. Not only are you getting 2 ear pads with 2 different comfort levels, but you're also getting to alter that tonality just a little bit.
And we've heard some rumblings online that the pads are not interchangeable with other models like the Empyrean 2 or Elite. And while we don't have a concrete answer for you, I can tell you this. The ARTA is built to be fully serviceable and replaceable. Every single component, from those ear pads to the headband, to the drivers, to the cups, can be fully disassembled, repaired, or replaced. So when you're investing $6,000 on a headphone, you have the peace of mind knowing it's built to last for you for decades. And also, one thing I want to point out is what I really love about these grills. If you go back and look at some of the cars from the 40s and 50s, they had very unique grills that very much mimic this. I'm a car guy, and I love that aspect of these headphones.
You know, it is the little things like that that make a headphone of this caliber so exquisite. You know, you're paying a lot of money. You're investing in a headphone and you want it to last. You don't want it to be something that 2 years down the line you can't use anymore because it has a broken part and they don't have any more parts to replace it. With the ARTA, that's not a problem you have to worry about. You're investing in you, the future of your system, your listening habits, and the ARTA is just a part of that. All right, so there you have it. The Meze Audio ARTA isn't the headphone that's trying to be everything to everyone. It's built specifically for that discerning audiophile who's ready for a reference headphone that will completely change their relationship with music. If you've spent time investing in gear and building that perfect hi-fi setup, the ARTA is the missing piece. That brand new driver delivers the technical foundation, the physical design makes it an object worth owning, and the fully serviceable parts deliver the peace of mind that this headphone will stay with you for years from now.
So if you're ready to experience the ARTA for yourself, or if you need help matching it to the perfect amplifier of your system, head over to Moon Audio. We're happy to help.
Now, if you want to discover the tactile physical formats that do these headphones justice, click the video on your screen right now to watch our comprehensive guide on CD players versus CD transports. We'll help you find the perfect digital hub for your home system so you can enjoy the ARTA with all your favorite tracks. We'll see you over there, and thanks for watching.